Men are the prize, your favorite podcast. It's Harvey, your host. How are you? Hope the week is great. Hope life is treating you well, and I hope you're treating life well. Hope everything is just going the way it needs to be. As usual, another week, another great guest. I was on his podcast, the Day In, Day Out podcast. I introduce to you, I bring to your face, to your ears. I'm going to make sure I say this right because I had a feeling I was going to mess up the name.
Mm.
Muyiwa Adebiyi.
Mm.
Was that close?
There you go. Come on, carry on, carry on. Yeah.
Hey, I was close. Hey.
Yeah.
I I was on his podcast. We had such a great conversation that I asked him if he would grace my podcast with his presence, and he did. Welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
I'm all good. I'm all good. Yes, he threatened a puppy if I did not come onto the show today. So yes, in order to save that puppy, and this is why I'm here today. So he doesn't get his Florida man card.
I,
Yeah, Florida threatens puppy. That's
I
right.
said I don't want that, man. You keep that, man. But and I'm not an animal lover, so a pup. I guess a puppy. Yes.
Yeah, you see, that's what I'm talking about, people. He's not an animal lover. So yeah, that puppy, I've saved that puppy. So I feel peace in my
Good
mind.
man, because if it wasn't me, you had to do it. It wasn't gonna be me.
You haven't taken that defensive sip of water.
That looks like water, but who knows what it really is. But we'll see as the conversation continues.
Well, let's see. He's energetic. Let's see if the words start to slur.
Oh, damn. Then you know. I
That
love a good bio. I'm going to read this man's bio. His name, I said it once, Muyiwa Adebiyi, the host of Day In, Day Out podcast. It is a twice weekly show where he brings on the good, great, and fantastic. Sometimes they talk about their life story, and other times they talk on a particular subject or topic, but they always aim for a great and informative conversation and a fun time. And I can say we definitely had a great time talking on his podcast, and I'm glad he's here with us. My first question, because I like to get up in it, what's it like hearing your bio read back to you?
Reading my bio back to me, it's one of those things where in some regards, my bio is a kind of a loose mission statement for what I want to do, but it doesn't encompass everything I want to do with the podcast. Basically, in some respects, that's helping me learn and grow and develop. But I want it to help other people to learn, grow, develop, and maybe take a little bit of inspiration from other people's stories. Because I've said this before and I'll say it again. In life, when you start out, they go, yeah, every time you hear your parents go, enjoy this moment of your life, because this is the greatest moment of your life, because once it's gone, you'll never get it again. You go out, you have your crew of people, we are Legion. You turn and you hear the roar of your friends, that's in your late teens, early 20s. You turn around in your mid-20s, early 30s. We are Legion. That roar becomes less so. And you're in your 30s, we are Legion. It's no, it is crack unit, this group, which come together every now and then. By the time I'm in my 40s and it's going, look, put it this way, I'm surprised there is not a van which just goes around being a soldier of fortune, just helping people out on a week-to-week basis. He gets the reference.
Yes, I do. I certainly do.
But you know what I mean? But this is the thing, as each time period goes by, you have less and less opportunity to interact, meet, talk to new people, because you just get busy with life, and your group of people you go out with, associate with, get smaller. It's one of those things where people go, yeah, no, it doesn't. No, look, the film Four Weddings and a Funeral. I didn't get the whole sort of Four Weddings and a Funeral thing when it first came out. I was in my late teens. I was yeah, don't be ridiculous. Why would you ever meet your friends just at weddings and funerals? And look, and got to throw in an extra thing, births of babies. Apart from that, Mm-mm. It just gets harder as time gets by. You don't get the opportunities to like hang out, goof off, because yeah, either your responsibilities grow, or yeah, people move away, or there's one less, like, how can I put it? There's empty seats around that table of life where people have like moved on. So, this is the where I've doing this podcast. So it's helping me still develop, helping me still grow, helping me like, yeah, find out and discover new people you never have the opportunity to speak to, because it is like we are ever more connected in this world, but we're not connected, because I can connect if I put my mind to it, to 100,000 people in the next 3 months, but I would not be able to tell you what their sort of life would be like, what their pain, suffering is. I'll just be this stranger they've decided to connect to because they feel like it benefits them in some way, but not in a meaningful way, you know?
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. I like that. It's a good start. It's a good start. I love doing this podcast because I love talking to men in general. But when I get a brother, a black man, I always find the conversation, there's a little bit more to it because I feel like we can I can relate to, your life, and hopefully you can to mine. Here's my first question for you as we dip into black masculinity. Do you think sexuality needs to be in the conversation of black masculinity?
Now, this is the whole thing. Yes, it does, but it's a case of it's always going to be on this spectrum. Because when you go, yes, like sexuality and masculinity, it's going to mean something completely different to me as a straight black male, compared to like a black gay male. And like, yeah, and then we can like go further on. And like, if you start diluting it down more and more, it's like, yeah, like black transsexual man or like transsexual woman. But when it gets diluted more and more, it starts to get very weird, if you get what I mean. It doesn't actually deal with, I don't care if anyone disagrees with me on this, but it's from what I've seen, it goes off of the reservation of the realm of reason. So yeah, it's important to have it there. It's unavoidable with regards to it, because the sexuality where you might sit on that spectrum will affect how you are going to be as a, like, yeah, as a black man, as a man in general, or as a lady, like across the board, you know?
Mm, okay.
I
Okay.
don't know about yourself, like with regards to you, like you're a straight
Right.
black man
Right.
who's got 4 kids,
Right.
and you know what I mean? Like with regards to like sexuality, you're having to deal with that on a very broad scale, because well, you're having to be like represent your sexuality in one way to your son, and to your 3 daughters, it's coming across another way. And then that's relationship which you have with your wife, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
You are having to be many different things all at once. Correct me if I'm
Agree.
wrong.
No, you're right. You're definitely right. I just wonder if, because I don't know, maybe I oversimplified. Does the am I a different man if I'm gay versus straight? I mean, and I'm taking it into most basic terms. If I'm just a man walking around, does does my sexuality then change your perception of me? Is it a necessary thing to know, or can I just be a man sitting here?
Like this is the thing. What I would simply say is this, and I might be wrong about this, but I would say if you're like the way you look at things, if you're a straight black male,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like basically like even just drop black, just a straight male
Mm-hmm.
compared to like a homosexual male, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be different, because you interact with the world differently, and the world
Mm-hmm.
interacts with you differently.
Right.
It's not going to be like, yeah, just as straightforward, because look, we like just me and you, like me living in the UK compared to you living in the States, our interaction with the world is going to be completely different. Like, you know, there are certain dangers which you'll have over in the States because they are like the norms and realities. to compare to what sort of dangers I'll have over here, or like say opportunities you have in America compared to what I have in the UK. And look, this, don't get me wrong, we live in two of the two of the top tier countries to like live in and be prosperous. You know what I mean? And if we compared this to like someone who was like coming from a African country, that would be completely different. So yeah, with regard, like going back to your original question, yes, there is a difference. And like the whole thing is there is going to be a core thing where all guys, all men can like, yeah, associate with and like have that deep connection. It's just a case of you've got to be aware that there are going to be a slightly different perspective on it, I would say.
Yes, I agree. Okay. I like to get that question out of the way. All right. If you've listened or watched this podcast, you know how I do. The word of this podcast is prize. I take 4 of the letters. They each represent a characteristic of being a man, and we're going to talk about it. So, the first letter in the word prize is P, and it represents purpose. Purpose is defined as a reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. What is your purpose, sir?
Now, this is the thing, like with I would say depending what lens I'm looking for through, it has a different thing because okay, as if I look at it from like, yeah, partner to my lady and like my child, yes, it is to be a supportive, providing like, yeah, father, lover, and like, yeah, be supporting that family unit to go forward in like the best way it can. I look this, and I don't sit there like, yeah, I'm King Ding-a-ling. I like provide it all because look, like my lady, where when it comes to the wage of the household, she laps me a few times, and she smiles about it. It's like I sometimes look at her with like, yeah, just like, yeah, shut up. But it's the reality of it. Look, highly educated, yeah, done dusted. With regards to my like daughter, it's like, yeah, trying to be the best example of what a man can be, what a human being can be in this topsy like turvy crazy world. Because and I'll like the reason why I sigh like this is because it's so new to me. I'm still trying to work out the sort of finite details with that. I have an idea, but as time goes by, I feel like that's going to evolve and change. So none of this is kind of really sort of set in stone with that, if you get what I mean.
Okay. So you have an ever-changing definition of purpose. It's different things for you, for different people, different
Yeah,
times, I guess.
it's, I would say, a evolving definition of purpose when it comes to like my lady, my daughter, and basically the family unit, because it's just everything right now is a growing, shifting landscape. And it seems to have like like over the last 8 years, possibly 10, that sort of landscape has really sort of exploded in some regards. And it might be just a case of it might be down to a few elite people out there who are sort of like setting the narrative, which the vast majority of people might not actually care about. But it feels like, but from what I've seen, it feels, and I can actually see the sort of effects this narrative has had on sort of Western society as a whole at this present time.
Okay. Okay. What is your purpose? I want to ask because I want to see if I can kind of nail you down for one. The purpose of the podcast in particular, not for you, but for the people who are listening or watching. What is there? What should they be getting out of it?
Basically, the ability, like what they should be getting out of it is like other people's perspectives of their lives, how they've lived their lives, how they've overcome some obstacles, how they might be dealing with like how might be the best way to, like, say, deal with either mental health, finance, or like stuff like that. Things what can help them to develop, help them grow along the way. Because it's one of those things where you hear you hear and see all of these different courses, like going, yes, you spend, yeah, $97 on this course on a monthly basis and it will help improve your life. When, like, if you listen to a podcast, you can get possibly the sort of markers of where you should be going in your life, which direction you should be going. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to provide you with all the answers. And yeah, it's just helping. I'm hoping my podcast can help people find a direction where they would like to go in, as like, yeah, and help them sort of develop and grow from there.
Okay. All right. The next letter in the word prize is R. The word is resilient. The capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. So, can you take a moment and consider a time in your life, a situation, something that may have happened to you where you discovered you had resilience that you did not know you had?
Now, with regards to resilience, like, it's one of those things where, okay, for myself, I've I've had a sort of mental shift on this back in, I would say, around about sort of 2008, made redundant from my job, and like had to basically sort of figure out a way of getting back into work and like building from there. So like, yeah, it was a hard period of time. And like, I remember sitting down for a job interview and I was like, yeah, I was doing this, doing that. Like, I was like sort of contracting, temping, everything like that to get through. And the person went, yeah, you've been doing that for 2 years. Like, why is that? I was like, oh, didn't even realize it. It was a case of, I was kind of like, yeah, so in the sort of realm of survival mode, like getting like, I sort of just was in that sort of realm, just getting on with the sort of day to day, and like sort of recovering from, like, I've learned to sort of put stop gaps in my life. So if I find myself drifting, which I think many people tend to do in life, I can like go, whoa, 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 stop. You're drifting. Okay, you want to go in this direction. Yeah. And you want to hit XYZ goal by this day. What you're doing right now, is that helping me do that? Or is that not doing it? And if it's helping me get to those goals, carry on as is. If it's not, okay, what do I need to do to sit my ass down and figure out the next step? And like, yeah, and I would say, yeah, for a long time, for a good many years, I did not have stop gaps. So I did drift. And like, yeah, I did sort of get lost in the reeds, as they say, you know?
Okay.
How about yourself?
Um, I don't know. I've had a few of my, I don't know. What kind of led me to doing this is just my struggles kind of growing up in a divorced household. I attempted suicide. I've had my struggles. I don't know. I grew up in a pretty violent household.
Mm-hmm.
So they got divorced, and once they got divorced, I had to live with the parent who probably I shouldn't have lived with. And then I really feel from like 12, from 12 on, I was just kind of raising myself. I was kind of in my own head, pretty much depressed. Just, I don't know. I guess I had self-esteem. I didn't really, but then I went to college and failed out and came home and then was completely shot because by then I was just in the house with somebody who did not love me, who did not care at all. He was in complete disgust with me because, he'd gone to college, he got his degree. I went to college, I failed out. So I
Mm.
embarrassed him. So I had to, I got close. I have a scar on my wrist that I look at every once in a while because I tried. I tried to end it and I didn't. So it's moments like that that I didn't do it. And I'm like, I'm not going to. I have to remain positive. It took me a while to find myself, but I got there. And I think that's why this podcast works for me. It's
Mm-hmm.
because I remember being that low, feeling that small, that insignificant, feeling that no one cared, and having nobody to talk to about how I felt about things. Because in general, we men, we don't talk. And that's really what this is. This whole podcast is a space for men to do something that's not typical of us. We don't talk about our emotions. So that's what this is. So what resilience I eventually found led me to do this podcast so I can help other men find theirs.
Mhm.
So that's me. And then and I'm just continually talking to men, and every day I get to talk to a guy, coach, podcast, whatever, and just remind men of their value. And life sucks sometimes. And we'll deal with it. We may feel low, but you're important. You're valuable. When you get out of whatever, rut you're in now, you appreciate the happy times because you made it out of the bad ones. So resilience for me is just kind of early life for me. And now I can pass on my struggles and my wins to people I talk to. But enough about me, because everybody who listens and watches heard about me say this stuff over and over again. They don't want to hear that again. They want to hear about you, brother. They want to hear about you. I saw how you were slick with it, how you turned the question on me, and I don't need a reason to talk. And you just gave it to me.
I'm here to have a conversation.
And
I'm not here.
you're
I'm not
correct.
slick or tricky. Like, yeah, oh, what are you thinking of me? My God. It's like this is what I'm talking about, people. This is what I'm talking about. I'm going back to the puppy. This is the reason why. Look, so yeah. So look, I am trying to be a noble and stoic fella.
And you succeeded. You already have. You already have. It is this is, you're right. This is a conversation. So I applaud you on conversing with me.
Yes.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'll throw a question at you just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
If what misconception do men have about masculinity right
Like, like with regards to misconception about masculinity right now,
now?
I think it's a case of many guys don't actually know where they should be right now, because like it's one of those things. I think many guys, well, it's not even guys, many people these days don't actually reflect on who they should be. They do just see, okay, they see whatever their like fancy, like um highlight reel there might be, which might be on Instagram, might be on YouTube, it might be in a myriad of places, and go, yeah, this is masculinity. Like, for example, where everyone was like screaming and shouting. This year, it was Andrew Tate. Everyone was like, oh my God, Andrew Tate. No, no, what the hell? 2-3 years ago, it was Dan Bazarian. Oh my God, Dan Bazarian. Oh my God, no, no, no. The whole thing is like, okay, if most people went for these guys' lifestyle, like I'm just talking on the guy side of things, then thinking that would make them happy, I would say, are you sure about that? Yeah, don't get me wrong, the sort of big fancy cars and like all the women like left, right, and can be, and like, yeah, stacks of cash. Sounds fantastic. And look, trust me, yeah, you spoke, if you talk to me in my late teens, early 20s, I would have been like, sign me up for that tomorrow. Yes. Like going, where you like why you've got that needle, and like, yeah, no, that's 2 shots of penicillin. Please. I need that just so nothing falls off, doc. Hey, thank you. But yeah, I'd be down with that 110%. But over the course of time, having some self-reflection, really sitting down and getting to know myself, I know that's not for me. That's not my sort of ultimate goal in life. Other guys, I don't think they have, well, they don't actually sort of consider that right now. I think it's a case of the vast majority just are going with the highlight reel. Or if they haven't like done the self-reflection, working on themselves, they don't actually know where they're going. And I think that's the main problem. You need to work on yourself. You need to actually put that time in. so you can find whatever semblance of a North Star you might have in your life. So like, because yeah, it might be, let me get the big cars, let me have all the ladies, all the stacks of cash. That's your North Star. You go for it. Or it might be just like, yeah, you know what? I want to be a father, a family man, and I just need to find that right person. Or it could be like, I want to be an adventurer. I want to go to the North or South Pole or like the deepest, darkest jungles of Peru. But without that self-reflection, without working on themselves, there is always going to be a misconception, because most men don't actually know what like their aspect of masculinity is, or what manhood truly is, because they haven't actually looked into themselves to find it.
As I was listening to you, and I was trying to, because that's the first time I've asked that question, so I've kind of contemplated it. If I had to give an answer, I think right now, I think the misconception of masculinity is that there is one definition of what masculinity is. I think a lot of people, like you said, masculinity is this. And masculinity is not there's not one definition. Masculinity is different for every single man. So to see a man making money and having all these women and all that, I guess that's his definition of success or masculinity, but that doesn't have to be yours. We're in this media where we see all this is thrown at us. All this stuff. A real man has a big car, or he's got big muscles, or he can be a bit of misogynist, or all these things that a man can be. And that's incredibly wrong. That's what one guy was. That doesn't mean that's what I have to be.
Yeah, for example, okay, look at the MCU original Avengers. I don't know what they're going to come up with next, but okay, Tony Stark, like Steve Rogers, Captain America, like Bruce Banner, Thor, okay, you know what I mean? Hawkeye, okay, that's 5 different examples right there. Like everyone be like, oh, yeah, but that's white guys. Look, that's like, don't get hung up with that. But yeah, but those are 5 different versions of masculinity. Yeah, at the end of the day, they were punching and kicking stuff. But if you sat down and you wanted to have a conversation with each of them, they would come at it from a totally different like point of view, a totally different perspective. All of them, like going, right, they are all men, but they sit along this like sort of spectrum of masculinity at different points, you know?
That's true. That's a really good point. I may have to investigate that. I like that idea. We're going to skip the I in prize. We'll come back to it. The next letter in the word prize is Z, and the word is zeal. Zeal is defined as enthusiastic devotion. So, putting family aside and the work and podcast stuff that you do, putting those things to the side, so you can't bring them up. What else are you enthusiastically devoted to?
Fitness. Basically, like with my sort of day-to-day routine, well, my weekly routine, I aim to work out 5 to 6 times a week, running weights and basically whatever else I can get into my routine. Like with regards to like how we live our lives, one of the things is you can be intellectual, you can have all of this, but there is an element of life where you need to be working hard and having a sweat on your brow. I think it's part of the human condition. If we're not doing that, because if you go with evolution, tens of thousands of years were running, hunting down things, and it was like, yeah, that was the natural part of everyday life. Now, as I sit in this comfy-ish office chair speaking to you, and you know what I mean, like when I finish here, transition to a like comfy sofa and like sit down and watch whatever TV. Like that wasn't how we ran things for the longest time. So yeah, I need to have that. Like for me, I need to have that physicality. I need to have that sweat on my brow. And yeah, working out has been one of those great things for me, if it's either lifting weights or running distance. So yeah, you'll find me out most of the times. And yeah, if you're on Strava, yeah, you can follow me on Strava.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
that's good. That's good. How long have you been? How long you been running?
Basically, I go through a period where I run on and off. Like last time, I've done the 4-4-48 twice. Do you know what the 4-4-48
Not
is?
a clue. No.
Okay, there is a former Navy SEAL called David Goggins,
Okay,
where
I know him. Okay.
yes, basically every year around about March time, he does a thing where you run 4 miles every like 4 hours for 48 hours. So yeah.
For 48 hours. So
Yeah,
4 hours every 4 hours for essentially 2 days.
4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours.
So you sleeping in between those, I guess?
Yeah, you try to get to sleep, but yeah. So
Oh
like
my.
this,
Okay.
yeah, so I've done that twice. Like I did it last year, and I did it back in 2020, I believe. Yeah, 2020. Yeah, but it's one of those things where yeah, it's physically grueling
Yeah.
and it's mentally taxing because you're like, oh right, yeah, I prefer to run the 48 miles straight out and just leave it at that. But the lack of sleep and then trying to stay focused and keep going, yeah, it's a challenge. But yeah, but what got me back into my running, like I did it last year and I sort of like drifted away because I had other things and I was like, yeah, mostly concentrating on strength and power. I must get strong. That's the way, ever leaving. So the London Marathon, my friend like got me a place for the London Marathon in October. So I was training for that. I got to say, one of my sort of warm up things for the London Marathon, I was like, okay, let me. I hadn't run for about 3 months on a regular basis, and I signed myself up for the Leamington Spa half marathon. I was like, okay, let me do the Leamington Spa half marathon. I've run a couple of half marathon distances recently, and I was like, okay, right. Started out and I knew what would be a good sort of pacing for myself to
Right.
go. I was like, that would be around about for 4 miles, I was be around about the 45, 46 minute mark. That is a happy place for me to be. Now, my Garmin went off and my headphones went, yes, you like, there's like lap one, 38 minutes. I was like, oh no. It's like, oh no. Oh, I'm about to experience a world of pain. Yeah,
Mhm.
got through, got to the 8 mile mark. I was like, yeah, got to the 10 mile mark. By the time I actually got to near the finish line, I can actually run. I had cramp going up and down both legs and everything like this. It was like it was a huge education for me because it was like, okay, I run differently when there's crowds of people around me. I think it's one of those things where a number of things, when you feel the crowd around you, when you feel like you've got people watching what you're doing, I think a lot of people switch their intensity and they don't realize they're doing it because they're either in competition like with someone else, like the other person might not actually realize they're in competition with you, but it's like it's the game people play, game I play to help keep me going along. But it was like I knew I needed a lot of work to get to the marathon. So like lots of 50-mile weeks of running like 50, 60, and then got to the marathon. And yeah, completed the London Marathon in a time of 5 hours, 21 minutes. So yeah,
Very good.
yeah. So
Wow.
I keep on running, I keep on lifting weights. Yeah, one of the things and I keep myself active on that side of things. I wouldn't say like, yeah, I'm a fitness freak because, yeah, I would be heavily on the dietary side, like, oh, yes, I must drop down to this and drop down to that. But Zil, it's one of those things where exercise is that thing for me.
Okay.
What
I
gives
agree.
Yeah.
I love I working out. For me, I get into these kind of not habits, but I when I'm going to the gym consistently, it's get up, it's go, get rid of the kids, get them off to school, go work out. It to me, it's almost like it's kind of like the calluses are working out. So I'm just used to it. It's just something that I do. And
Mm,
I go, and my problem for me, one, I like working out, but I get bored pretty
mm,
quick with the exercise stuff. So I always need something different. I go try to get it going. So somebody showed me deadlifts. I'm like, I love deadlifts. So I would just do deadlifts for a while. Then I'm like, okay, that's good. I've kind of moved on. What's next? Find this exercise, whatever. And I find things to keep me going. And then life comes in because it's for kids and business and life and stuff. And then it gets harder to go to the gym. But I'm like, you have to keep going. And then if you stop, then it's essentially starting the whole process over again. Like, oh, like I never been to the gym before. The one thing I've always wanted to be able to do is run. I have no endurance. I've never had endurance. I'm pretty strong, but running I could never do. I'd love to do a half marathon or something. If you were talking, because we're just talking about running now, since it's something that you do, I guess, on the regular, what would be your suggestion to somebody who wants to start running, just be able to do some miles, run a few miles a day? How does somebody start with that? What's your suggestion?
like, okay. Start with walking a mile. Walk a mile every
Yeah.
single day. And then out for 10 days, then run half of that mile. If you do that for 10 days, if you find that's not a problem, you can do a mile and everything like that, then up it to 2 miles. Then basically, if that's not a problem, repeat again to 4 miles. When you truly hit a ceiling where you're like, okay, I can't do it, that's where you sort of start. Like I would say, okay, if you're like, my ceiling is 5 miles, just making it nice and simple. Like run half of it, walk half of it, or just simply run a mile, walk a mile, run a mile, walk a mile, and you know what I mean, alternate that. So you're slowly building up. Because if I told you to okay, deadlift like 500 pounds, like tomorrow, you're like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, I can't do that. Well, you might be able to, I don't know. But it's a case of you're like, right. But you know, it takes slow, progressive steps. And then, put in the appropriate rest days in between. And then, just keep rinsing and repeating, rinsing and repeating. And then just give yourself markers on the calendar when you want to sort of up it to the next level and take it from there.
Okay. I'm going to keep that in mind. I will. The last letter in the word prize is E, and the word is expectation. Expectation is defined as a strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future.
Hmm.
What do you expect of yourself in the next 5 years? Where are you
Hmm.
going to be 5 years from now?
5 years from now. Now that is interesting state of affairs. Where I'd like to be in 5 years' time is yes, my podcast, the turning a profit, yeah, but basically the podcast to be bigger, the podcast to be better, so it's reaching more people and it's helping more people, and basically be in a position where I could do the podcast a full time, be doing it, then that'll be my sort of not predominant income, but it'll be where I can put my predominant time towards and basically help free me up as well with regards to my daughter, my lady, and be a lot more present in that respect. Because yes, let's be honest, if a podcast hits properly, really hits, and it doesn't need to hit in a major way, that is a different tier of income on a different tier of time, if you get what I mean.
Sure, definitely. How old is your daughter now?
6 months.
Oh, she's a baby. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So then I got a question for you. 6 months. Oh, whew, that brings back memories. I've got three daughters, so I remember these. Mm. Let's say I said 5 years. let's skip. I'm gonna go 5 years high. Let's say 10 years from now, I am lucky enough to speak to your daughter. And I'm gonna ask her this, and I want you to tell me what you'd like the answer to be. I go to your daughter and I ask her, what kind of man is your daddy? What would you like her to be able to tell me about you?
First thing, firm but fair. Firm but fair. Basically, like, so like she understands there's a reasons why I will be like, yeah, you can do this, but you can't do that. But I've like given the sort of like a balance and like a balanced and well-crafted answer to that. Look, trust me, I am going to no doubt screw up more times than I can actually imagine in ways which will like I can envision, and in ways which just come out of the blue and went, oh, I fucked up right there.
Yep.
But yeah,
Every day, man. Every day. I know what you mean.
firm but fair. Basically help in like help encourage her to believe in herself, and yeah,
Okay.
just a good dad.
As a father, I like talking to dads because I always find it interesting. Right now, you just have a daughter. Do you think that if you were to have a son and then he was 10 and I were to talk to him, would you want him to think something different of you than your daughter would? Should they both see you the same way? Or if I talk to young sir versus young madam, would they both give the same answer? Or should I see you different as daddy when I'm your son?
Now this is the thing, like, and it like I think it comes down to this, like, okay, like male instinct, I don't care what anyone says when it comes to like sons and daughters. Okay, you are a little bit more protective of your daughter.
Oh, definitely.
When I say a little, more protective
Much.
of your
A whole lot.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because like don't get me wrong. Look, I like red-blooded straight male. And I know the sort of like games and antics I would like play as like look, as just like, yeah, like know when to turn the charm on, know when, and like, yeah, I could be a character, let's just say. And
Okay.
look, yeah. And there are going to be many a guy out there who will also be characters as well. And like, you know what I mean? Fair enough. She'll negotiate that sort of realm of her life as time goes by. And yes, will she have her heart broken? Yeah. Will she meet some good guys? Yeah. And it don't work out? Yes. All of this. But the whole thing is there's always that aspect of where you like, oh, yes, there's this new sort of realm of danger for her. You're like, oh, this is the world that it is. You think you operate like this here in the UK, you operate like that in America, like, and if you went to another place, part of the world, it operates completely differently for a lady, big time. And like this is the thing, with regards to if I had a son, I would be less protective of him. I might be a little bit harsher because I know the sort of slings and arrows which come out of being a man in like when I was growing up. And the way it is right now, how tough it is if you are a guy just like trying to negotiate like the sort of day, like the day in and day out of rigors of life, because one of the things which no one kind of talks about is like the way men and women like socialize. Look, for like example, like I first time coming to America, I was in Virginia. I was in a summer camp called Camp High Road as a camp counselor. And like, yeah, all the counselors in the pool from age 19 to 22. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, yeah, great time. Yeah, this was orientation week. Two girls get out of the pool, sat down. I was like, right, everyone's still right. two more, get out. In a 20-minute period, every single girl female counselor who was there was sitting down at the side of the pool having a conversation. All of the guys were like going, what the hell is going on? There is this sort of natural sort of like, yes, let me socialize and have that connection with each other, which comes in the realm of the female hemisphere. You like people like, and when it comes to guys, yes, if you're watching a sports game or you got stuff like that, there is that connection, but it's not going to be like, hey, you know what? Let me just sit down and talk about like this, that, the other, because you got to go around the houses and then some before you get to the place where, okay, I need to talk about a real thing. And I'm not going to like necessarily talk to you, but you know what I mean? So it's like, look, don't get me wrong. There are some guys which need to be vulnerable because they've been holding a cup of water for a very long time and they need to put that cup down because if they don't, it will break them. But the opportunity, especially in this day and age, for guys to do that, because in some respects, I don't think guys hang out the same way they used to hang out. I think like that sort of realm I don't know if it's lost, gone, or whatnot, but it's just like it's different. And I might be looking at it from an older pair of glasses, looking from an older lens. Maybe it's like, right, maybe they're hanging out in a different way. But if they're hanging out on like say a Discord server, or they're doing their like they're doing their like frig, I don't know, like playing some online game and like they're going, oh, we're hanging out this way. You like go, yeah, that's great and all, that's nice, but you know the power of a handshake and looking at someone in the eye and like getting that vibe of who that person is. Like, yeah, maybe sharing a drink or just like, you know what I mean? Just sharing a space with a person in real life, in real time, compared to doing it all online, which is not good. No, because look, while we have this conversation, okay, even though it's a very good I'm enjoying myself. I hope you're enjoying yourself. Yeah. Sure. There would be a different element if we were in the room together. Totally different element.
So much so. You're right.
Yeah. And like, so I think many a guy lose that. And I think that's the sort of thing where I would be a little bit harsher if I had a son, just to like sort of help prepare them a little bit more mentally for that, because it's just weird. Because like when I was a kid, like my mother would go out and play, go away, and like yes, I like off I go. Street lights come on, be back. You know what I mean? Get your dinner. But I would be missing for hours, and I'd be hanging out with like you know what I mean, my peers hours and then like riding bikes doing this. And I'm not talking about, oh, shucks, let's go back to the good old days. But there was a different element of socializing compared to today.
That's a big thing. I talk to a lot of men, and one thing we don't do is we don't have friendships the way we used to. To me, we don't have tribes the way we used to. Like men getting together, men who can talk to each other because we relate to the same experience. Being a man is significantly different now than it was 30, 40 years ago. It meant something different 40 years ago to be a man as opposed to it now. And nobody really told us that the definition was changing, or the roles were changing, or the expectations were changing. It just kind of happened. And now we need to know. A lot of men just kind of go through life. We kind of roll with the punches, and figure, oh, I'm just trying to deal with this. Because being a man can be a lonely place to be. It can be, because we don't look for people to share the experience with. We're not raised to do that.
Yeah, but like the whole thing is, yeah, you're right. We're not raised to do that, but the sort of avenues, the areas where men can actually do that, you're kind of cut off from it. Okay, look, life is one way when you're a single guy running around with your single crew of friends. totally one, like it's totally different. Now, when friends start to settle down, get into the relationships and stuff like this, they're still around in some respects. When they start to have kids and everything like this is where I think it really sort of gets funky, because this is like the time where most stress, the most strain, and the most isolated come, like for most guys come into it, is when they become fathers. Because look, when you're talking about antenatal groups and stuff like this, it is very much geared to the mothers down on that side of things, very much geared to it. And the type of things which guys would do to normally sort of hang out with their friends are, I'm watching this sports event, or we're just going to this, we go and play a sport, we go to a club, we go, like whatever that activity is then kind of frowned upon by society as a whole, because you're not being a good father, because you're off just watching sports, playing your little games. Like, you're not being a father. Why are you not being present? Blah, 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 blah. And like, you're like going, but the simple fact of the matter is that gets cut off and that man becomes isolated. Look, there was Ellen's DJ who committed suicide, and there was the Green Power Ranger who committed suicide.
Yep.
Because look, this is the thing. You're like, oh right, if you you looked at their lives and the way they were living it, it was like, okay, yeah, the Green Power Ranger might have been going through a divorce and stuff, but you still looked at him as like, oh, look, people looked at it. There's a certain generation of like people would look to him like, you're Tommy the Green Power Ranger. I love you, man. You're amazing. And like, you know what I mean? Whatever like realm of despair he was in, whatever like pain he was going through at that time, there was no one there to like he could turn to. Exit papers, bam, like, and Ellen's DJ. Look, okay, look, he looked like he had an outstanding life. Look, there was his wife doing these little TikToks and everything like this, universally loved by most people who came in contact with him. But same thing, whatever realm of despair he was in, and like, you know what I mean, he couldn't turn to anyone. And yeah, exit papers. And this is the thing, I think there are a lot of gents out there who live in quiet despair. And they can't express themselves because, one, all avenues where they would have those connections with other guys are cut off because they're deemed inappropriate, because you're just goofing off, but it's more than that. And two, friendship, like the friendships they have been so superficial and weak over the last few years, they don't have anyone to turn to. So it's like, you know, they're kind of lost.
It's so true. Friendship is a big thing. There's two questions that I ask men, and they're coming for you, so I won't get into it. But it fits into the whole thing about men and how we congregate with each other and how we don't congregate. But we'll save that for a second. The last actual letter in this mantra of P.R.I.Z.E is I. It's a middle letter in the word P.R.I.Z.E, and it doesn't represent a word. It represents the man that I'm speaking to. So we're going to take off the shackles, all the titles of father, employee, best friend, podcaster, workout guru, star running, everything that we are, all these titles, everything that is thrust upon us. We're going to put that all to the side. When it is just you at your core, no titles, nothing else. Who are you?
I hope a positive influence on the world with regards to the people around me, and to like, yeah, strangers who might come across stuff I put out there into this great world of ours. Because I like what I tend to find, yeah, putting out positivity, you don't get an immediate reaction from it. If I say something positive, put something positive out in the world, it goes out, and you don't know where it will hit. Not at all. But if I dollars for donuts, if I said anything negative and I put that out in the world, it comes back to you immediately, times 2, times 3, times whatever, depending on how like severe it is. But yeah, so
That's so true. I apologize for cutting you off. The last person I had on this podcast, I had a great conversation with him, and we were talking about this. And as husbands, we were talking about it. So what I was saying, I have a beautiful wife. My wife is gorgeous. If I told my wife, "Wow, you look really good in that dress," "Girl, you look good," she's like, "Yeah, thank you," and we keep it moving. If I told her she looked fat today, that is the only thing she would remember. And it would stick for years. She'd remember what I was wearing when I said it, what time it was, what was the weather, what I ate the day before, how much gas was in the car. She'd remember everything. And it's so very true. And I just coined this phrase. I thought it really fit, that negativity sticks and positivity bounces. Because when you say, like, I'm gonna throw a compliment at you, like, "Oh, thank you," and then it's gone. But I'd say something bad to you, it hits you in the heart and it stays there and it doesn't leave. And it just like burrows in. We don't appreciate compliments, but we never forget a negative word. Never. And it's so true. So being positive, it's hard because it's unappreciated at times.
oh, it's this is the thing. It's one of those things where it's sorry to say it, but it's never really appreciated until basically you like give people their flowers when they're gone. So it's like it's one of those things. Like, and I think it's one of those things where if you look at it, if someone's a constant realm of positivity coming out and giving you that, you always, you never feel like you feel it, but you don't feel it. It's just like, yeah, it's sort of that nice breeze giving wind to your sails. But as you say, give out the negative, but yeah, but it just affects the world in a different way. I just don't like, and I don't know, like people don't value it. Sorry to say, but like the whole thing is, I don't care if people don't value it. I will still persist. I will still continue. And if I can affect one person, great. 2 people, great. Like, who knows where it might be? Like, yeah, it might be tens of thousands of years from now, and it might make a difference. Who knows?
I like that. I like that too. In that conversation with this gentleman, and it was great. He was talking about, living life. And when you die, when we pass, when we move on from
Mm.
this mortal coil, I guess, he said, "I want to die empty." And what he meant is, I'm giving everything, all my positivity, all my knowledge, all my strength, all my direction. When I'm gone, I give you everything that I had. And then hopefully what I taught, my mentality, my positive view on life, that's what lives on after I'm gone. But I'm going to give you all that I got. And my body's just going to be spent because I gave everything I had to you. And I've really attached to that. I want to die empty. Like people will be sad that I'm gone, but in a way I won't be, because of everything that I left to the world, there'll still be remnants of me in everything that we do. And I think that's what you do, your positivity that you do in your podcast, in whatever you do, you just have a positive effect on people. And we can fight it, but it's hard to fight good. When good is coming at you, but eventually one of them catches you. As men specifically, when was the last time you were complimented? Do you remember the last time somebody straight up complimented you?
Mm,
The fact that you have to think about it says it all, brother.
um, like this is the thing. in the context of sort of everyday life, like yeah, my lady like thanked me for like washing up the like baby's bowls like today, but like yeah, I've been thanked a couple of times for like doing podcasting, but yeah, but everyday life, every now and then. It's just, you know what I mean? I don't sort of sit down and go, yes, I must keep track of everything. I do have gratitude for my days, and like, yeah, I try to find gratitude in like something in either the day or week, or if I can't do that in the month, a little bit concerning if it turns out if it's a month. But yeah, yeah, compliments. It's you know what I mean. I don't see it as it has to be part and parcel of my work, like you know what I mean, day-to-day living.
Okay, well, that's good. I applaud you. I'm going to leave you with two questions here.
Okay.
And the first one, and these are questions for men because I've had enough conversations where I've always been interested with the answers. The first question is, what do you do? And I actually, you know what? You answered it already, but I hear you say it again. Most men don't value themselves enough to do something for themselves,
Mhm.
just for you, not to help anybody else, not for the family, not for the job, not for anybody else. What do you do when the world is beating you down and you're struggling and the weight's heavy and you need a release? What do you do for you so that you feel better
It
about
would,
life?
yeah, it would be generally exercise, but
Mhm.
like this is the thing. I will also like if it's a specific thing which I know I've gone through in the past, I would also look to that and try to remember how I overcame that situation in the past so I can apply that to the present. But generally, like yeah, for my sort of peace of mind and well-being, it will be exercise. And hey, doing the podcast as well, because that also helps me like yeah, my sort of mental development and yeah, keeping me centered.
That's me. I love podcasting. I've gotten a lot of joy out of it. So it's kind of my hobby. It's the side thing. And I think we'll be more soon. The second question, and we still kind of talked about this stuff.
Mm,
Men, a lot of talk about men don't talk. We're not emotionally intelligent. We don't explain our emotions. We don't let it out. And I've always thought that we can, but we just don't have somebody to release that to. Safety for men is having a place to just talk about everything that's going on and not feel judged or feel reviled for just talking about how I'm feeling. And that starts young. If I'm a 12-year-old boy or a 14-year-old boy, and there's this girl that I liked, and she didn't like me, and she's dating some other guy, and I feel bad about it. I may not have had anybody to talk to. Or I wanted to be the star quarterback on the football team, and I wasn't good enough, and I didn't make the team, and I feel bad about that. So we kind of were building up
mm.
all these emotions and nowhere to release it. So the question is this: do you have a friend? Do you have a person? Do you have a person in life who you could call right now and say, you know what, I did something so stupid, so dumb right now. I don't even know why I did it. It was dumb, but I did it. Do you have that person who you could call who would listen to you, would agree with you on how dumb it was, but would be supportive, would listen to you, and you'd feel better for releasing? Do you have that kind of friend?
I I'm lucky to have a couple of friends like that where I can like go right. Blah 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 blah. Yes, I did this. I like why was I so stupid and why I should do that. And they know who they are. So like you know what I mean. So it's like I'm talking about yes, this, but no. Everyone go, why not me? It's like
You
um
too.
like, why? You want a hug? Yes. Okay. So yeah, they know who they are, but like the
Right.
whole thing is, I'm fortunate on that side of things. Um, there is times where I wish I could see my friends more,
Mm.
and because yeah, um, geography, time, and life itself gets in the way. You know,
Mhm.
and I I've known lots of friends. Uh, there are chairs around the table which sit empty because of yeah passing, drifting, and all of that. And yeah, I still hold those people like I hold the friends who are still in my life quite dear.
Excellent. I'm glad you have those people. As many men as I talk to, a lot of men don't. A lot of men don't have a vessel, don't have a place to release. So it's always good. Um, this was excellent. I love having conversation. We have many more in store, whether it's on camera or not. It's an absolute pleasure to speak with you. Where can people find you to hear the podcast? Where can they involve themselves, delve into the Day In, Day Out podcast? Tell us where.
Well, like if anywhere where you can find good or great podcasts like myself, the Day In Day Out podcast. I am on Apple, I am on Google. Yeah, I'm like basically everywhere. So put in Day In Day Out podcast with my name, you'll be able to find me. Not a problem at all. If listening on podcasts is not your thing, you can track me down on YouTube as well. So yes, just simply put that into your browser in the old YouTubes. Find me there. Yeah, don't forget, subscribe, you sons of gun bitches. Basically take things forward from there. So yeah, those are the places you can find me. And yeah, if you are exercise like geek buff, like whatever, yeah, find me on Strava. Give me a follow, and yeah, I'll follow you back happily. Okay.
All right. Thank you for that. All that information will be in the episode notes. So if you need to just double check and know where you can find that man, check the notes. You see where you can find him. It's been a pleasure. So thank you so much for giving me of your time.
The honor is all mine, sir. The honor is all mine. Thank
And
you.
the puppy will be released momentarily. And I will leave it to the men.
Look, I want to see video evidence of this. With
The picture didn't happen.
Watch him, people. Watch him.
Thank you so much for listening, for watching, men. As I end this episode, thank you to my guests. Thank you to Kristen McGriff, who does my intro and my outro, the best voice, smooth in, smooth out. I leave it to you, men, to remember how important, how special, how valuable you are to somebody in this world. Somebody values your presence. Somebody values your voice. Somebody's day is better because you walked in. Somebody is sad because they haven't heard from you yet. We need you every day, all day. If you have any questions, if you have any struggles, if you need to talk to somebody, find me, harveythegear.com, Instagram, Facebook, talk. We're all going through the same struggles. You're not alone. You just haven't found me yet. And I'm here for you. If you want to rock the shirt because Black men are the prize, harveythegear.com. You can find it. I leave you with this. It's been a pleasure.
Send me a free t-shirt.
Oh, damn, he wants a shirt. Let me see if I can make, what does it cost to mail stuff to the UK? I'll talk, we'll see. I'll leave you with this. You are a man, you are awesome, and you are the prize. Have a good one. I'll see you next week.